As the air gets crisp and the holidays get closer, your wardrobe needs to get warmer. It's time to go back to Quince and get those layers, sweaters, outerwear, and everyday essentials that feel luxurious, look timeless, and make holiday dressing effortless. We've been talking about Quince for a while here. I've told you how much I love their pants for travelers. What is your favorite item that you've got from Quince? Let me know. Is it their $50 cashmere sweaters, their Italian wool coats, or something else? By working directly with ethical top-tier factories, Quince skips the middlemen and offers prices 50% less than similar brands. Which Quince pieces have become your go-to layers for the holiday season? Quince has something for everyone on your list. What pieces are you loving right now, whether for gifting or for yourself? Step into the holiday season with layers made to feel good, look polished, and last from Quince. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. Go to quince.com/traveler for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
This episode is brought to you by Tic Tac. Your boss is going off at you for missing a deadline and you swear the clock just moved backwards. Suddenly, you remember the pack of Tic Tacs on your desk. Now you're riding horseback on the beach, the smell of citrus in the air. And what's this? Your boss is sitting behind you, breathing heavenly fresh mint? Refresh your mouth and mind and share your good vibes with Tic Tac.
Amateur Traveler, episode 969. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about waterfalls and rainbow eucalyptus trees, manta rays and blue starfish, the island hopper, and ruins of Nan Madol as we go to the Federated States of Micronesia. This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. Let's talk about the Federated States of Micronesia. I would like to welcome to the show Lexie Nicole Brown, who is coming to us from the Marshall Islands, but coming to talk to us about the Federated States of Micronesia. Lexie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the Federated States of Micronesia today. It's a country that's captured my heart just with its magic and adventure. So I'm really looking forward to today's episode.
Excellent. We have talked a little bit about Micronesia, which is more than the Federated States of Micronesia. A couple times on the show, I would refer people to episode 128 and 534, but we're covering a little different place today. Lexie, what is your connection with the Federated States of Micronesia?
So back in 2023, my husband and I made the move to Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands, which put me right smack dab in the middle of the blue continent. So usually we travel when we lived in the States, but going to the ocean, it was been exciting and adventure, and we've loved living here. But it's been a great branching off point to go visit the Federated States of Micronesia because it is the closest island nation country to us. And so I visited Kosrae and Pohnpei and have also been to Chuuk. I'm currently researching Yap because that will be the last Federated State of Micronesia state that I will want to visit. But that's my connection, is moving here. So I've lived in Kwajalein for a little over 2 years now.
Excellent. And why should someone go to the Federated States of Micronesia? Boy, there's no shorter way to say that, is there?
I know. There sometimes, and I might even refer it to as the FSM. I feel like we'll shorten it by saying FSM because it is a mouthful. But it is a place that's so unique and I think unmatched when it comes to experiencing ancient Micronesian culture. And what's interesting about the FSM is there's 4 states, and each of those states are made up of either one island like Kosrae with a small island close by, Layla, or over 100 islands split up in a lagoon. So it's very diverse. And even because each state is so far apart from each other, they have their own language. And also each individual state has their own language and their own culture. So it's unique to visit different islands. The probably most visited one is Pohnpei because that is the capital. But Kosrae was my first trip to the Federated States of Micronesia, and I just fell in love with it.
Cool.
To get there is very interesting because a lot of people take this route just to fly this route. It's the United Island Hopper route. And back in the day, I think when Continental Airlines had it, they would call it the Island Milk Run. And it's basically from Honolulu to Guam, and they fly back and forth, stopping at the islands along the way. And then they'll fly back the next day. There's no flights on Sunday, and I think that's partly operations to have a day, but also partly cultural of not working on Sunday. So a lot of people will fly that route, but they don't always stop and get off and spend a lot of time in these islands. So hopefully I can add some colors to what goes on these islands and why you should visit them. But it really is just such unique, magical place for the traveler that likes a trekking, unique experience.
Cool. What itinerary are you going to recommend for us?
So today I'm going to recommend visiting Kosrae and Pohnpei. There's 2 other states in the FSM. One is Yap, which is an incredible place to visit. I'm researching right now because they're the most traditional culture-wise, and so I want to go in making sure I'm respectful and understand the cultural norms. They also have the huge stone money, and they have a festival every year in March called the Yap Week. And so it's a perfect way to go experience that Micronesian culture. Chuuk is a world-renowned diving location. So during World War II, the Japanese occupied Chuuk, and then it was right after Operation Flintlock in World War II when the U.S. went to the FSM. They sunk a ton of Japanese ships in that lagoon.
Although you usually hear it called truck in World War II history.
Truck.
T-R-U-K instead of Chuuk.
Exactly. So, yeah, so the Truck Lagoon, there's so many shipwrecks from World War II that these wreck divers, and I think you have to be a tech wreck diver to do them. I know there's some liveaboards that go through the Truck Lagoon, but it's an incredible dive site. So I would say for divers, think about going to Chuuk. And for anyone who really wants to experience that traditional culture and unique experience, go to Yap during Yap Week. But today, Pohnpei and Kosrae, they're close to my heart, and I've been there and loved them. So I'm excited to dive into that. I think Kosrae is what I'll start with, mainly because it was my first trip, and that's really where I got to experience the FSM. But I had gone there with a friend, and we were scoping out a location for her to have a wellness retreat. And so this was my first time being to Micronesia. And we get off the airplane, even landing, you just see this huge volcanic island. And it looks so lush. The water's so blue. And I could not wait to just go hiking and get immersed in the nature. So when you're traveling to Kosrae, there's 2 main hotels to stay at. One is the Nautilus Resort, which I've stayed at both these hotels. The other is the Island Hopper Hotel. And there used to be a resort called the Tree Lodge on Kosrae that was pretty popular that travelers would go to. It was currently under construction when we were going, and I don't know if it's fully open yet. So I'm going to talk about the Nautilus and then the Island Hopper. So when we stayed at the Island Hopper Hotel, it's the closest to the airport, in which everything is on this one main road. So it's not too far to get to the Island Hopper. The Nautilus Resort has a really cool story. And so Josh, the owner, he was from Australia and entered a raffle. And this raffle was to win a resort in Kosrae.
Wait, not to win a trip to a resort, but to win a resort.
To win the resort. And he was an accountant at the time and was like, why not? He bought 3 tickets. And I think he said each ticket was $50. So a couple months later, he was sitting in a bar and got a call that he had won. And then a couple months after that, he quit his job and sold his things and moved to Kosrae. So his story is really interesting, and he honestly is a super great resource to have if you're planning a trip to Kosrae because he has so many connections. The resort is right next to the Great Blue Hole. And so that's a great snorkel spot. It's about 90 feet deep, and I think is considered sacred in Kosraean culture. But people snorkel, and we actually, my friend and I flew a drone over just to see what was in there. And we could see sharks and stingrays swimming. It does have to be accessed at high tide so you can snorkel out. Otherwise, you're walking through a little bit of sludge that can be difficult. We did do that. It was difficult. We still made it. So I wouldn't say don't go if it's not high tide. But it's a awesome snorkel spot with coral, and it's right outside the resort. So even if you're staying at the Nautilus, you can do that as an afternoon activity.
Okay.
But Kosrae is really cool because it has ancient ruins. So most people, which I'll talk about Pohnpei, know about Nan Madol. But in Kosrae, there's the Layla ruins and the Menke ruins. And the Menke ruins are believed to be the original oldest ruins. And that's about a 5-mile hike in. Unfortunately, right during the start of that hike, my sandals broke. So I recommend taking hiking boots. I ended up doing the whole thing barefoot because I didn't want to miss out.
Oh my gosh.
It was doable, but I was definitely hurting the next day. It's a great hike through the jungle. You have to take a guide. And so something about traveling in Kosrae is you have to go with the landowner and a guide. And typically the hotel owner, like Josh, would set that up for you. So it's not something that you can book online, which is different for travelers who can just book everything online now. But you'd work with the hotel owner. And same thing if someone was staying at the Island Hopper, you work with the hotel owner for your rental car, for your tours, any additional requests you have, and they will coordinate that for you. The Menke Ruins hike was 5 miles. We had about 5 river crossings each way, so it ended up being 10 total. But it's so lush. They had the rainbow eucalyptus trees, and even there were taro leaves. It started raining while we were there because in Micronesia, there's buckets of rain. There's so much rain all the time. So be prepared for rain as a traveler. But our guide would chop off taro root leaves, and we could use that as an umbrella while we were hiking. It was so fun.
Now, I'm not familiar with a rainbow eucalyptus tree.
How would I describe it? The bark looks like a rainbow colored. It's not as tall because the kaw tree is in Kosrae, and that is what's known as the redwood of Micronesia.
Okay.
But the bark, when you get close,
wow.
It just looks like, rainbow. It's beautiful.
I'm seeing pictures of it. That's stunning. Huh.
And so those are along the hike. The kaw tree, which is specifically in Kosrae, I think they may have a few in Pohnpei. I was reading online back in the day when we were going, but it's specifically for Kosrae. It's the Yela, Y-E-L-A, Yela Kaw forest. And these are insanely tall trees. They grow up to 100 feet tall. And the crazy part is they're hollow. So we would walk through this Yela Kaw forest, and you can hit a stick against the tree and it would sound so hollow, but that's what canoes were made out of. So it's cool that they use these trees to build the canoes. So the lush environment is amazing for hiking. There's so many spots to stop and have lunch. And I think typically if you're hiking, you're going to pack a lunch anyway. There's also the Scipion waterfall, which is not a long hike by any means, but it is a little rocky. So solid shoes for that hike up to the waterfall too. But it's a little swimming hole and you can jump in and relax and sit around. And it's a great thing to pair with another activity during the day, such as the Menke Ruins hike. The Menke Ruins hike also has a swimming hole at the end. And so if you want to split up swimming holes across the days, you can do those on 2 different days. Another activity in Kosrae that I honestly think it's my favorite when I think back to it because it just feels so epic, but there's mangroves. Josh coordinated, we were like, hey, is there a mangrove tour? And he's like, yeah, let me talk to someone. And so we took a boat through these mangroves and it just is so beautiful. The only thing I know in the States to compare it to is like the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland. And you just you're just waiting for like an elephant to pop out of the bush like at Disneyland, but it's so fun and we had a great time. There's also a landing that you can get off during the mangrove tour, and I think it's called Bully Hayes, and it's named after a pirate who supposedly crashed a ship outside of Kosrae. And this landing is just a nice, almost camp spot style, but it has a great view of Mount Finkel. So the highest point on Kosrae is Mount Finkel, and people hike up to this. And I've never done it. It's something I want to do in the future. It's about, I think, a 10-hour day. So it's a long day. You need to make sure you have a guide. It's going to be muddy, especially because it rains so much and steep. So definitely a more advanced. All the hikes I've mentioned so far can be done as a beginner.
And apparently even barefoot.
Some even barefoot. But if anyone wants to do Mount Finkel, definitely get a guide.
Okay.
Kosrae is also known as the island with the sleeping lady. And so if you Google a picture of Kosrae, the mountain ridges look like a lady sleeping, which I know is the story off of Moana. When we were there was a little boy just hanging out talking to us, and he was like, the sleeping lady. And he started talking about the sleeping lady. And we look up and you could just see it. It's amazing, like the outline of a sleeping lady on the ridge of the mountain. So it's known for that. And that can be seen all around the island, which is nice. So you can even just, if you're driving, pull off. One thing I mentioned to be prepared for in Kosrae is there are taxis, but you'll probably want to rent a car, which you'll do through your hotel. The roads are very rough just because of the rain. And so it's something to be cautious of driving. You don't go super fast. I always say it's like island time anyway. Like you're not in a rush. And the cars, you drive on the right side of the road, but the driver is on the right side of the car. So it's a little different than in the States.
Okay. Interesting.
Living in the Marshall Islands, I only ride my bike around. So when we went to Kosrae, I hopped in the car and I was already nervous about driving again after 3 months of not driving. And then I get in the right side seat and I'm like, this is so weird, but it became so normal by the end of the trip.
Okay.
I would say try these foods. Of course, everyone is at a different adventure level when it comes to trying foods. But Kosrae coconuts, the only way I can describe them, and I don't know if it has to do like where the island sits or just the climate, but the coconut water, when you crack open a coconut, is slightly carbonated and slightly salty. And it sounds so weird, but it is so refreshing when you have a cold coconut and just are enjoying it. It's like a fizzy soda inside. It's so different than any other coconut water I've had.
Interesting. I've never seen that before.
And Kosrae is also known for their fish soup. I learned that typically families cook it on Sunday and they eat it all throughout Sunday. But it's a coconut-based fish soup with rice, and you boil bananas and taro and dip it in and scoop and eat it. And it's a really delicious soup. I've had it a couple times. The other food I would recommend is banana empanadas, and that's just going to be at little stands around the island as you're driving, or little shops or stores. They're made from the island bananas, so they're not too sweet on the inside, but it's just like perfectly sweet. So we would always get those on the way to a hike.
Okay.
Kosrae does have taxis, not as prevalent, but if you need to take a taxi somewhere, you can. Taxis are always shared, so you won't get a taxi by yourself, which is different than in the States.
Yeah.
But I feel like makes it more fun, and you have more stops and get to see a different part of the island. There's also a bird cave that a lot of people visit. It's a great stopping point when you're going to the airport or coming back because it's on the way. But it's just like this big opening and you can walk in and just see the birds. There's thousands of birds flying in and out.
We should say you talked about shared taxi. The official language is English too. So if I'm in a shared taxi, I can strike up a conversation likely with the people I'm with.
Absolutely. I should have also mentioned that they use the US dollar as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
You don't need to get a different currency for visiting the FSM. It does help a lot as an English speaker while traveling, being able to communicate.
Yep. If you're one of those guys who looks at hair loss as a way to wear cool caps and save on shampoo, then good on you. But a lot of us take it a little more personally than that. It makes us feel like we're getting old and less attractive. If you're trying to figure out what actually works, through Hims, you can get to clear solutions, expert guidance, and online process to take the confusion out of care. Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work. Doctor-trusted, clinically proven ingredients can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/travel. That's hims.com/travel for your free online visit. hims.com/travel. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compound drug products which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. And thanks to Hims for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you're looking for a way to travel that feels personal, comfortable, and connected, but without the price tags and sterile feeling of hotels or short-term rentals, let me introduce you to Kindred. Kindred is a members-only home swapping network, and your home with Kindred is your ticket. You earn credits by hosting fellow members and then use those credits to stay in over 220,000 homes in more than 100 cities worldwide. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. We just got this ad come in recently. But like me, you can get 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. I quickly got on the app and looked for places near where my son lives because they don't have room for us to stay with them, and found a number of places nearby. Some of them are available to book specific days because remember, this is a home exchange, and so that's when those people are going on vacation, and others are open to inquiries. There are pictures of all these places, and all look nice, by the way, and then descriptions of the property as well. Apply now at livekindred.com and use code TRAVELER to join for free. Plus, you'll earn 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. That's livekindred.com, code TRAVELER. livekindred.com, code TRAVELER. And thanks to Kindred for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. And we didn't say that the reason for that is while they're a UN member state and independent, they have a, quote, compact of free association with the United States. So they are affiliated in some strange and unique way.
Exactly. As a U.S. citizen traveling, you just need your passport to go. If you're a non-U.S. citizen, there's an additional step you have to do if you're planning to stay over 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone leaving the Federated States of Micronesia to go back home, you have to pay a $25 cash fee. So I always recommend to everyone, like, make sure you just keep some cash because you'll have to pay that exit fee.
Yep.
I don't know what happens if you don't pay it, but you definitely keep cash at the end of the trip for that.
Okay.
And Kosrae offers fishing too. We went trolling, which I had never been trolling before. And so they're like, oh, do you want to go trolling? And I'm like, sure, let's do it. So it was amazing, just trolling, catching fish. We caught some yellowfin tuna. We were able to take that back to the hotel, and they actually prepared it for us that night. So that was a cool touch. We caught our own fish, and then we're eating it later on. The number one thing someone has to try is ice schmidt. And between Pohnpei and Kosrae, they call it 2 different things. But it's this frozen coconut dessert. And when a coconut's aged enough that the inside has solidified and become that apple texture, that's how they make this. So they take out the apple, they grate out some coconut meat, put it with canned milk, mix it all up, cook it, and then freeze it into a popsicle. They're usually in a cup with a stick in it.
Okay.
And you eat it like a popsicle. Such a treat. If anyone goes and does not try one, I'm going to be so upset. They have to try it. It's so good. But overall, Kosrae was just an absolute amazing experience. I was just telling my husband, too, because he's been to Pohnpei with me, but he hasn't been to Kosrae. And I was like, we need to go. You just need to know this part of my life because I love it so much. So I would say those are the main things to do in Kosrae. Of course, seeing the Sleeping Lady, you'll see everywhere. There's also the Layla ruins, which are really accessible, especially if you're staying at the Nautilus. I think it's a 10-minute walk.
Oh,
they
wow.
actually have, it's really close. The Menke, you have to drive a little bit farther to where the mangroves are. Kutwe is the municipality, and then there's a marina there. And so it's near that area. But the Layla ruins are so close that you can just walk to, and there are shops around there. I really wanted to get a Micronesian skirt, and so there was a shop that had those there. They're also known for their chili salt, and I wish I would have researched how they make this salt, but Kosraean chili salt is a thing. So I picked up some of that, and they have a couple shops if you want to pick up souvenirs to take home. On my first trip to Kosrae, we actually overlapped with the National Geographic Society Pristine Seas crew. And so it was really fun we would go about our days and experience our things. And they were doing some filming for the Pristine Seas episodes that they had and share stories. And we both just had an amazing time, even though we were at different parts of the island on different days. So no matter where you go in Kosrae, it's going to be an adventure. Josh was critical to us having an amazing trip. He just made the connections. And so any hotel owner is going to do that in Micronesia. That's your point of contact to plan your activities.
Okay.
We were there for almost a week. We originally had planned a weekend and our flight got canceled twice. So we ended up having 2 days worth of clothes, but we made it last, I think, for 6 days. We're so glad it happened though, because that's when we had these organic, amazing, adventurous things were popping up and we were like just saying yes to everything. And we really got to just see how amazing the Kosraean people are. They're so kind and so welcoming. There was a couple lessons learned that I'll share for travelers that I think when you meet someone and you're talking to a husband and wife, you're like, oh, how did you meet? It's just a very common question to ask in the States. And that is not one you ask in Kosrae. It's just not culturally appropriate. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, how did you meet? And they both chuckled and didn't really say anything. And I was like, oh. And then a different time, you think I would have learned my lesson. A different time I'm talking to a couple and I'm like, oh, like, how did you meet? Tell me your story. And they also laughed and chuckled. And I was like, are you laughing because I shouldn't have asked that? And he was like, oh, it's not really appropriate to ask that question here. And I was like, thank you so much for telling me. So any travelers going there, normally in the States, that's something you open a discussion with. It's not one in Kosrae.
Interesting. Did you ever find out why?
I didn't. No one ever explained it to me.
Okay.
And so I was talking with my friend. I'm like, do you know anything? And she's maybe like, they don't always like to say, or that's too personal. So we just assumed maybe it was too personal. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you could definitely spend a week there, but for a week itinerary, I would say start with Kosrae and then hop on over to Pohnpei, or you can swap them depending on which way you're flying the island hopper route. Did you have any more questions on Kosrae before I
let's
over Pohnpei?
do Pohnpei and then we'll do some questions at the end.
Perfect. That sounds great. Pohnpei is, I believe, the most visited tourism-wise, is set up, I think, the best. Yap also has a really great tourism board. But Pohnpei is different as there's one main island, there's outer islands, but you have this incredible lagoon that you can just explore in. But the island sits in the center. So the atoll's on the outside, I believe, if I'm talking my geography correctly. And then you can just leave the main island and go out. And there's, depending on the season, a huge surfing community where you can surf the waves. If it's the doldrums where it's calmer, you can even go to another atoll, the And Atoll, and snorkel. When I was there, I wanted to be in the water as much as possible. And they're known for their manta road. And I love manta rays. They're the gentle giants of the sea. So when we were planning a trip there, my dad was visiting us. So I'm like, let's go to Pohnpei. You need to experience the FSM. So we stayed at the Mangrove Bay Hotel, which is this hotel that kind of looks out. It's like this bay, and you just look out, have a great view. I think all of the rooms, there's 8 rooms, have this bay view. So it's a beautiful, scenic place. They also have a restaurant on site, which is nice if you just want to go next door and eat food. The other hotels, there's a couple other hotels you can stay at. The Sea Breeze is one, the Ocean View is one, and there's overwater bungalows on the other side of Pohnpei called Paranui Resort. And that is close to the Nan Madol ruins. So a lot of people will pair those two together. Because I wanted to stay more city center and use that as a base, we stayed at the Mangrove Bay Hotel, and I highly recommend it. The Wi-Fi was good. The restaurant food was so good. We were eating breakfast one day, and the owner walks over with cheesecake, and I was like, cheesecake for breakfast? Yes. This is my favorite place ever. But the Pohnpei Surf Club is also located at the Mangrove Bay Hotel, and it is a great tour agency that will get you set up with any tour you want to do.
Okay.
Alois is the owner, really nice guy. Similar to how I talked about Josh and Kosrae just being so crucial to our trip. Alois also had that role of just coordinating what we wanted, gave us advice. With Pohnpei, you can, and we actually did this because we booked tours, you can actually get around just by taxi. And they have specific pricing. It's $1 each stop, $1 a person, and $1 once you cross a certain point of the island. So they have this
Okay.
tally that they work in their heads and let you know at the end. That's also something you need cash for. But you can rent a rental car through your hotel, whatever hotel you're staying at. And that is a cool thing because you can just drive around. I was really happy, especially with this trip being our first time booking a tour guide, because they just gave us so much background. And with the Federated States of Micronesia, when you're going on someone's land, and in Kosrae, this was coordinated, but I think Pohnpei, there was more specific rules. You have to pay the landowner.
Right.
So the landowner will stand outside, you pay the landowner, and then if you cross into another landowner's land, you also have to pay them. So it was nice having the guide coordinate that, but it's something someone could also do by themselves. I just had some friends go and they rented a car because they wanted to do the 6 waterfalls hike, which I think is about a 5-hour hike, extremely muddy, so fun. And you have these beautiful views of waterfalls. So Pohnpei is great for hiking. There's also Sokez Ridge Trail. And when you're flying into Pohnpei, you'll see this huge rock. It's just right there, right in front of the airport. It's this massive thing. And so you can hike that ridge trail. But because back in the day in World War II, it was used as a lookout, there's a lot of tanks and towers and just random things up there that you can scope out and see and get really close to. Of course, everything's old and rusty and you don't want to climb on it. Stay a safe distance away. But it is cool to see that piece of history while on this beautiful hike. You have your beginning hikes, just like in Kosrae,
Yeah.
and there's also advanced hikes too. So it appeals to any hiker. The Sokez Ridge Trail was a little steep at the beginning, but my dad, who's in his 60s and in shape, but did an excellent job on the hike. So I feel like even for kids, it might take them a little bit longer to get up the trail, but overall, it wasn't anything too dangerous or too crazy. It's just a steep hill at the beginning.
Okay.
For snorkeling and water activities, you can snorkel or dive the Manta Road. And the Manta Road is just this cleaning station that they found for manta rays. Some days you'll see 2, some days you'll see 7, but it is absolutely amazing when you see how big these mantas are. So we booked it through Pohnpei Surf Club, and we take the boat out. We do 2 other snorkel spots too, which are nice. We do one close to the mangroves, and then we do one on Manta Road and one right on the edge of the lagoon. And the spot on the edge of the lagoon, I've never seen so many blue starfish before. It was just
Oh,
an
wow.
amazing experience. And then the mantas, once we saw them, they're so fast. So it's hard to keep up. Like I'm trying to swim down and get close to them, but they are massive. I'm going to say like a 12 feet span.
Wow.
I'm sure it was like 8 or 10, but it felt massive. They were huge. But snorkeling is amazing.
And you said there was a cleaning station. And I don't know
Yes.
how this works here with manta rays. I've snorkeled with rays. I don't remember. I don't think they were manta rays. They were much smaller than that.
Okay, maybe eagle rays.
Possibly. It was in Belize. What is a cleaning station?
So cleaning station is a spot where mantas will come and they have the little cleaner fish
Okay.
that will attach to them. It's also usually a spot where there's a lot of, they're filter feeders. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of plankton. It's almost like their hangout spot. They get clean, they get some food, they see their friends, and then they continue on their way.
Okay.
But typically these spots stay consistent. And so even in the Marshall Islands, we've been trying to find, okay, where are the cleaning stations? Because we just want to set up a GoPro and see what happens, like how many mantas come through. So they've identified this spot. I think the boat ride from the hotel, I would say was about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes to
Okay.
the edge of the lagoon. The Manta Road was, we went to the edge of the lagoon first and worked our way back. So the Manta Road was probably like 15 to 20 minutes away boat ride. So it's not too long of a boat ride. And the crew was amazing, helped us in and out of the water. So even if you're a beginner snorkeler, diver, the crew was great. They also, after our tours, always have banana bread, which I think I just am always won over by the pastries and the sweets. So anyway, there's always banana bread.
I have a soft spot in my heart for banana bread, and a place where the bananas were likely picked nearby is even more special.
It's just better. Trying the local foods is amazing. Which, speaking of, Pohnpei has a very similar thing to IJsmet in Kosrae, and it's called ice par. It's made the exact same way. But if someone goes to Pohnpei, we stopped off at a little shop and got some, I want to say it was right up the hill from Mangrove Bay Hotel. I think the store's name was Blue Star, if I'm remembering correctly. But they just had a freezer section, and you go and get a paper cup of a frozen ice par, and it was so good. I'll go back to waterfalls. There's the Keparohi waterfall, and that is a nice quick hike to a waterfall. It's almost like a walk. It's nothing too crazy, but the waterfall is massive. So it's not necessarily a swimming hole. You can get close to it. But the interesting thing is that there are little gemstones in the riverbed. So our tour guide just started digging around, and I'm like, what are you looking for? And he pulls up this lavender gemstone. And then one was a very bright yellow gemstone. Nobody knows where they come from. They just come up from the dirt, and they find them on tours when they're taking people. We can dig around. You can dig around yourself if you go by yourself. And there's also eels in that pond too. So there's a designated eel pond in Pohnpei you can go visit. People will take a can of sardines or tuna fish can and feed them. But at the Keparohi waterfall, you can actually see these eels too.
Okay.
A lot of people will try mangrove crab. I wasn't brave enough to try it, but that's something that people eat as well in Pohnpei. And Pohnpei is known for their pepper. So just like Kosrae was so famous for their salt, their chili salt, Pohnpei's thing is pepper, and it's so good. We brought some home, and it's potent and spicy and has the right peppery taste. But there's one pepper store on the island, and while we were there, along with island time, hours aren't always consistent of when places are opened.
Okay.
So the whole trip, I'm trying to track down Pepper, and the store wasn't open, and finally we're leaving. We're at the airport, and I see Pepper on this shelf in the airport store, and I go over and the door's locked. And normally I'd be like, oh, it wasn't my day. But I'm like, I got a security guard. I'm like, listen, I don't mean to be a pain, but I really would love to buy this pepper. And he opened the door for me, and I checked out and got the pepper.
That's funny.
But anyone who's going, get pepper. There's lots of different shops around the island. So same thing, if you want to get a souvenir to take home or a Micronesian skirt, you're going to have an opportunity to do along the drive around Pohnpei. There's also a specific part, this specific village. It's called Pohnpei, and it's the place where all the handicraft artists live. And they basically sell these crafts outside of their home or even inside their home. And I remember the whole time I was in Pohnpei, I felt like I was in an Indiana Jones movie. You have the waterfalls, you have the hikes, you have the gemstones, the eels, the ancient ruins of Nan Madol. And I remember our taxi driver just pulled up to this small market outside, and I'm in an Indiana Jones movie. But they have really cool woodworking. I think the thing that people typically will purchase is an ornament, like a handicrafts ornament from Pohnpei. I brought home this beautiful wooden dolphin I can set on a desk or a table. So there's different handicrafts, and you just ask the taxi cab driver to take you to Pohnpei. And we drove around, and even there was one store, I was like, oh, can I go in there? And the owner's, I can't find the key, so I can't open it up. And I was like, okay, thanks so much. It's just different. Like, it's island time, and it's Micronesia.
That's funny. You're standing on the beach when you notice something strange. The horizon doesn't look right. At first, all you can see is a thin white line. Then the line starts to rise. You realize it's not the horizon at all. It's a 30-foot tall wall of water, and it's racing straight toward you. What would you do? On the day after Christmas in 2004, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake hit off the coast of Indonesia, triggering a devastating tsunami. It struck Thailand without warning, no alarms, no cell phone alerts, no evacuation. In this season of Against the Odds, experience one of the deadliest natural disasters in history through the perspectives of those who did everything they could to survive. Follow Against the Odds on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge on all episodes of Against the Odds Tsunami in Thailand early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
Don't miss a special offer on November 19th from Botox Cosmetic Anabotulinum Toxin A, the one and only product of its kind FDA approved for over 20 years. Buy one $50 gift card and get one free while supplies last. Terms and conditions apply. For prescribing information and box warning, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
And so across, you have to be an adventure traveler to visit Micronesia, which is appealing to me. But the tourism isn't, I think, to where in our Western culture standards, someone's doing something for you always, you book everything. It's a lot of go with the flow and experiencing adventure organically.
Okay.
So I would recommend anyone traveling there be open to things that pop up to do, because I feel like that's when the best adventures happen, rather than having a super structured itinerary.
Okay. Now, I feel like we've left one thing out. You keep referring to, that ancient ruins, which is a UNESCO site of Nan Madol. We probably do need to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that will be probably the most iconic thing that people are going to see. So Nan Madol was built, I think it was about 900 years ago, by the Saudi Alir dynasty, if I said that name right. And there's so many different theories about how it was built, because the basalt stones are huge. So you just get there and you're like, how in ancient times with no modern technology did they build this city, this stone city that has canals going in and out? And when the ocean tide rises, that's what brings the water in. Unfortunately, our timing of the trip, the tide was low. And so we couldn't take a boat in, because I'm like, that would be so epic to take a boat into Nan Madol ruins and get to experience that. But we ended up driving the car and then hiking in, which is also just as fun. You get across a river at one point to get to the ancient ruins. And there's a tomb in the center, but it is interesting because they have all these theories about how these stones were moved. And so one of the theories is it was done by a sorcerer. One was brothers that were giants. My favorite was that there was a giant chicken that pecked these stones and put them into place. But it was really fun to walk around. It's amazing and impressive, but the whole time your mind is like, how did this happen?
To me, it looks like it was built with Lincoln logs made out of stone.
That's a great way to describe it. That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like Lincoln logs made out of stone. And the walk to get there was probably 10 minutes, I would say. And there are a couple stone paths. There's a muddy sections where I'm blanking on the name of the trees, but they have these knees that pop out as spikes under the ground. The roots kind of pop out.
Okay.
So you'll see some of those. And there's a specific red bird that lives in that area too. It's very tiny. So I tried to get a picture of one and I can't even, it looks like a red speck on the photo. But a lot of people refer to it as the Lost Atlantis. It's a very big, like you said, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it draws a lot. When we were there, there was a group from Germany who had gone, and they had been planning this trip for years to see Nan Madol. That was the whole reason why they were there. So it is absolutely something you cannot miss, going to Pohnpei. We also booked that tour through Pohnpei Surf Club, and our tour guide, Brad, was awesome. I just loved hearing all the theories of how this happened. And
clearly I'm with the giant chicken theory, but
exactly. It's like, we have to. There's a giant chicken. Absolutely. But there's so much to explore. I've watched a couple of videos where people climb on the ruins. I don't feel like that's an appropriate thing to do. I think
we're going
you just
to
walk around them.
No.
Yeah. But highly recommended. It was absolutely incredible seeing it and just hearing the stories. We also got to try, there was a couple of those aged coconuts. So we got to try that coconut apple on the inside of the aged coconuts before it had been processed into the ice part, which we had already tried. So that was fun. That's something too, that if someone is doing that without a guide, I think there were if I'm counting right, there were 3 checkpoints where money had to be paid to landowners.
Okay.
And the prices changed because it isn't a specifically structured thing. I think the most someone paid, from what I could researching and find, was $25. I think it was $25 when our guides took care of it for us. And that was included in our tour fee.
Yeah.
And they handled all the money. And it was nice because, of course, it ended with banana bread. But they drove us in. The roads are also rough there, too. So I was glad I wasn't having to drive on the roads because it was very potholy.
Got it. You talk about driving. The whole island is something like 10 miles across. So it's not big, but it's also all mountains, it looks like.
Exactly.
So everything is going to be lots of curves.
Lots of curves, lots of lush, skinny roads where sometimes we'd have to pull over and someone would pass.
Yep.
No one is speeding, which is nice. It makes everyone safer and you can approach potholes slowly.
Yep.
But it is something to be mindful of if you're planning to drive it by yourself. The resort I talked about, Paranui, is close to the Nan Madol ruins. A lot of people will pair those two together if they're planning to stay a week. I know I'm talking about a week across Kosrae and Pohnpei, but let's just say a traveler wanted to spend a week in Pohnpei. They can pair that Paranui resort with the Nan Madol ruins, and a boat can take them there. Something is if someone stays in the Paranui resort, it's nice because it's overwater bungalows, but you do have to buy all your own food and pack it in. There's no restaurant on site. And that may change as they develop. But it's something that if you're staying in the city like I did, you'll have access to restaurants and food. But if you're staying in the overwater bungalows, you have to be prepared with all your own stuff.
And you say staying in the city.
I know. I guess I should say the village. But it's where the capital is. I don't know the municipality name, but there's a main road, and that's where all the main governmental things are. And then hotels are around that area. So,
and this is the northern part of the island. I'm seeing Colonia.
Colonia, that's exactly where it's at. Thank you. Yeah, Colonia is that area, the main village area.
Okay. By a Japanese World War II tank graveyard.
Yes, which unfortunately I didn't make it to, but I've seen videos of that and they're literally just lined up.
Yep.
One thing about hiking too is it's always good to have a guide just because everything is so lush, but because stuff grows so quickly. Even on the Soquez Ridge trail hike when we did it, Alois was like, hey, I don't know if they've trim back the bushes up there. Like you might not be able to see some of the World War II ruins. And it was true. Stuff grows so fast. So always check in with someone. There's always a main trail, but to branch off, it just gets so lush so quick. You want to be extra careful to not go too far off trail, I guess would be my takeaway.
It feels like you're winding down on your itinerary.
Yes, that is what I'd recommend.
Anything else you want to recommend that for people before they book a trip on the island hopper and get out to these islands?
Absolutely. I would say pack rain gear.
Yeah.
That was one thing I forgot on one of my trips. It's just the weather temperature-wise doesn't change too much, but it's whether it's a ton of rain or you're in the sunshine. That's really the difference. They use U.S. currency, so make sure you pack that. I would also recommend just being flexible. Sometimes we can get so structured of like in a trip of we have to do this, but because things are weather dependent, always have a backup plan of, hey, if I can't do that this day, let's go do this instead. And there's so many activities that you can do that you can make that itinerary with a plan B option. Your hotel owners will also help with that too. I would just take a taxi ride to experience it. That was also one of my favorite trips, was just hopping in a taxi. It was all these elderly Kosraean women, and they were so much fun. I had such a good time. So I know it's not like a tourist thing, but just take a taxi for the fun of it. I would also recommend having some flexibility, because with the island hopper, this is weather dependent. There's also one plane, maybe two, that fly this route. So just have a day buffer for getting back, because I think I've always had a slight delay. It's nothing major, but just something to also think about. Culture-wise, Oh, of course, you always want to be respectful. But I think because they all have such different culture, if someone's visiting Yap, I haven't been to Yap yet, but I'm doing a lot of research there because hearing from the other Micronesian states, Yap is the most traditional. And so you want to make sure that you go in knowing how men operate, how women operate, how to say hello, what's appropriate. Yeah, I'd recommend that too. But it is absolutely a country to visit. I felt like it was life-changing for me. I love that it's not the typical Western standards of this tourism infrastructure, and you're able to really just organically get to know the Kosrae people or people in Pohnpei and experience the nature and the adventure there.
Excellent. Federated States of Micronesia has been on my radar since I was 11 because we had a substitute teacher for much of a year, like for half a year, that his last place that he had been was Pohnpei. And so I saw slideshows from Pohnpei when I was in 6th grade from this Mr. Weber, from this particular teacher who was telling us about his adventures there. Not a place I have gotten to just yet, though.
That's so awesome. I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I wish I would have known what existed over here before I moved over here. And I think it's always, even our map, when we look at a map, it's literally smack dab cut down the center of the Pacific. And we view it as the edges, but there's so much here.
Yeah.
So
it's a very big ocean.
Very big ocean.
As we go to wrap this up, you're standing in the prettiest spot you have seen in the Federated States of Micronesia. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
I am standing, there's a stairway from World War II.
Yep.
And it's about a 20-minute drive from the Nautilus Resort, but on the main road.
Okay.
If you're heading to Otway. And it used to be a Japanese weather station at the top of this hill.
Okay, I saw that.
But as you're walking up, you just look to the left and you see the sleeping lady. The whole mountain ridge, you just see her. And I think it's such an iconic picture moment. I think it's a moment that's etched in my brain of this is incredible. And the lady that lives there was so nice. She just brought out bananas for us as we're like walking up the steps. Her house is right at so just go to meet her too. But that view of the sleeping lady was incredible.
Excellent. One thing that makes you laugh and say only in the FSM.
It was the taxi ride by far. I think once we hopped in the taxi ride, the other thing too that I had never really been exposed to was betel nut. And I don't fully know how it works, but I know it's like a stimulant. And you chew this nut in a lime leaf, I think, or a banana leaf, or you put lime on it, something like that. And so I remember getting in and everyone's just like spitting in a bottle. And I was like, what is going on?
It stains, as I recall, too.
It does. It's really hard on the teeth.
Yeah.
And I was like, is everyone sick? And I'm like, great. I just got into a taxi and like, everyone's sick. I need to expect to get sick. And then it clicked and I'm like, oh, they're chewing betel nut. And these elderly ladies, they were so hip. Even the passenger pulls out a Corona and just pops a Corona and starts drinking it with betel nut. And I'm like, it's so different. So that made me laugh. And I think the hike with the mud is also a hilarious moment. Because you're just, especially when I didn't have shoes on in Kosrae, you're just slipping and sliding and I'm going to get through this. But it's so much fun with my friends. I would highly recommend doing a muddy hike with friends. You have to.
We had a very muddy hike in Kauai where we started from the wrong place and we weren't on the right hike. And so we still have a family story of that. Someone will say it's an easy 1 mile family hike. And of course, the one that we ended up doing ended up being lots of mud. And then at one point, just climbing hand over fist to try and get someplace. If you want my family to laugh, you just say it's an easy 1 mile family hike. And they'll get pictures of people coming back covered with mud. Excellent.
So funny. I'm going to have to steal that.
And if you wanted to summarize the Federated States of Micronesia with just 3 words, what 3 words would you pick?
Adventure.
Okay.
Magical.
Okay.
And I'm going to use this word soulful.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right word, but being so far removed from the typical civilization and busyness and hustle and bustle, it really was a time to reflect as an individual, as a traveler, just getting to connect with the Kosrae people or the people in Pohnpei. It really was a soulful experience.
Excellent. Our guest again has been Lexie Brown, and you can find her on Instagram at Lexie Nicole Brown. And you can see her various pictures from the Blue Continent, as you were calling it, from the Marshall Islands and from the Federated States of Micronesia and other nearby islands. Lexie, thanks so much for coming on Amateur Traveler and sharing with us your obvious love for the Federated States of Micronesia.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Gift magical mornings with Nespresso Virtuo Pop. Compact and stylish, Virtuo Pop is made to meet every morning coffee craving. From espresso to coffee, hot or iced, at the click of a button. And celebrate the season with Nespresso's limited edition coffee flavors. Sweet almond and hibiscus, cinnamon and candied tamarind, and festive double espresso. Magic in the making. Shop the holiday gift collection exclusively at Nespresso.com.
Special thanks to the patrons of the show who help support Amateur Traveler financially. I'm meeting with the patrons on our monthly Zoom call Saturday morning, and I'm looking forward to it. If you're interested in learning more about becoming a patron of the show, go to patreon.com/amateurtraveler. I have been busy on the Amateur Traveler blog this week. I'm trying to catch up before I head off to China. And so I have 5 new blog posts that I've written. One about Monterey's Cannery Row, one about things to do in Wichita, one about a romantic getaway in San Francisco, North Beach walking tour in San Francisco, and Mission San Juan Bautista and the State Historic Park. If you're interested in learning more about those, go to amateurtraveler.com. Don't forget to sign up for the Amateur Traveler trip in 2026 in May, which is to Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. And then something new, I'd love to get your feedback on the show. I'm calling this the Countdown to 1,000. You'll notice this is episode 969. We only have 31 shows before we hit 1,000. We're going to hit 1,000 sometime next year. And so I've got a survey where I've got some questions that I'd like to know from you in terms of what you think of the show, how you use the show, and how you'd like to see it changed. So go to amateurtraveler.com/1000 to find that survey, and I'd love to hear from you. And with that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening.
I got to see one more cathedral. I got to sit in one more cafe. I know that I should be heading home, but maybe not today.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.